Determine all critical numbers for the function f of x equals 3x minus 10 divided by x squared minus 4. Critical numbers are the x values that make the numerator and the denominator of the derivative equal to 0 and are in the domain of the function. The first thing to do is find the domain. The function f of x equals 3x minus 10 divided by x squared minus 4 has a denominator, and the denominator cannot equal 0 for the domain. X squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. It will factor into an x plus 2 and an x minus 2, which means that x cannot equal a negative 2 and x cannot equal a positive 2. So the domain will be all real numbers except for negative 2 and positive 2. That means it will start at negative infinity up to the lower of the two, which is negative 2. It will not include, it's a round bracket, union, and then start up again at negative 2, again not including it, and go up to the higher one, which is positive 2, not including it, round brackets on both, and then start up again at the positive 2, not including it, and up to positive infinity. That domain is all real numbers except for negative 2 and positive 2 because they have round brackets on them. Next thing to do is find the derivative. We have a quotient here, so we'll make use of the quotient rule. Derivative of the numerator is a 3 times the denominator left alone minus the numerator left alone times the derivative of the denominator, and the entire thing over the denominator squared. In the numerator, we will distribute the 3 in here. That will give 3x squared minus 12. We'll distribute the negative and the 2x in here. That'll give a negative 6x squared and a positive 20x. And leave the denominator alone. Combining like terms together in the numerator, 3x squared and a negative 6x squared will give a negative 3x squared. To put it in descending order, I will put the 20x next, and then the negative 12. Leave the denominator alone. Now that we have the derivative as a single fraction and all powers are positive, we can set the numerator equal to 0 and the denominator equal to 0 and solve for all x's. Starting with the numerator, negative 3x squared plus 20x minus 12 equals 0. We have a trinomial quadratic. Since the coefficient on the x squared term is negative, the first thing to do is factor a negative out, which will make that become a positive 3x squared, then a negative 20x, and a positive 12. All of the terms will change sign. We can now attempt to trinomial factor. Because it's a 3x squared, it will factor into a 3x and an x. And we need two numbers that multiply to be a positive 12 and add to be a negative 20 after one is multiplied by a 3. Since it's a negative 20, they will both be negative. Now 12 is 12 and 1. It doesn't look like that'll work. 6 and 2, and that will work if we put the 6 here and the 2 here, because that's 18x and that's 2x. To make it a negative 20x, they need to both be negative, as expected. And it's now fully factored, so that 3x minus 2 can equal 0, and x minus 6 can equal 0. Starting with the 3x minus 2, we can add 2 to both sides, and then divide both sides by a 3. And then the x minus 6, we can add 6 to both sides. Now working with the denominator, we have x squared minus 4 squared equals to 0. The first thing to do is take the square root of both sides to get rid of the square power. The square root and the square cancel, leaving x squared minus 4 equals to the square root of 0 is 0. X squared minus 4 is a difference of squares and factors into x plus 2 and x minus 2. And solving for x here, x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 2. We now check to see whether these are in the domain or not. To be critical numbers, they have to be in the domain of the function, which is all real numbers except for negative 2 and positive 2. So the first one, 2/3, is a real number, and it's not a negative 2 or positive 2. Likewise with x equals 6, real number, not a negative 2 or positive 2. And then the negative 2 and the positive 2 are not in the domain, so we can cross those out. And there are the two critical numbers for the function, x equals 2/3 and x equals 6.